you all, and I'm excited about Dr. Earl and Dr. Linda tonight. So thank you, and thank you, Elizabeth. Our mission, Helping Parents Heal, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting parents whose children have passed. Through support and resources offered, we aspire to help individuals become shining light parents, meaning a shift from a state of emotional heaviness to one of hopefulness and greater peace of mind. HPH goes a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and afterlife evidence in a non-dogmatic way. HPH affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background, and encourage open dialogue. Attendance at this meeting is voluntary. We hope that participants will learn from and share with each other. Discussions here are confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers, allowing parents to learn about many possible ways to heal. This includes presenters covering progressive topics such as afterlife evidence and connecting with children who have passed. The views expressed by our guest speakers may or may not reflect the opinions of Helping Parents Heal leaders and members, so we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Sorry, I did not unmute. So I always have this typing sound if I'm trying to write things in the chat box as people are speaking, and I apologize for that as well. I am so excited to have both Dr. Earl and Dr. Linda Backman here this evening because they are able to present a view of the afterlife that our kids are seeing and our kids are experiencing. And this is something that comes about from a lot of obviously research, but also the work that they're doing with past life regression and between lives regression as well. And I'm going to go ahead and read about them just a little bit so that you understand. This is a session that we're doing to take up where we had left off a couple weeks ago, and we're very excited about being able to try to answer all of the questions that you had at that time. So first of all, for Dr. Linda Backman, she is featured on Coast to Coast AM and Gaia TV. She's an expert teacher, regression therapist, and licensed psychologist with 45 years of private practice experience, including 30 years of guiding soul regressions. Linda was trained by soul regression pioneer Dr. Michael Newton, and they worked together training other therapists for 3 years. Linda has conducted thousands of past life and between lives regressions in person and remotely. Linda founded the Ravenheart Center and Training Institute in Boulder, in Colorado in 1997 and teaches regularly worldwide. Linda's books are Soul Design, which is coming in 2025, Souls on Earth, The Evolving Soul. Actually, I believe that it's available though. Linda will tell us. I think that we said that last time. The Evolving Soul and Bringing Your Soul to Light. She is an international expert in understanding how reincarnation plays a pivotal role in our personal growth and relationships. Dr. Earl Backman is a former university professor and administrator, trained mediator, and is skilled in coaching, and he has held academic and administrative positions at universities in North Carolina and Arizona. Following receipt of his Ph.D. in 1971 from the University of Oregon. He served as Dean of Social and Behavioral Sciences, as well as University Ombudsman for Northern Arizona University from 1984 to 1997. Earl has also worked with Dr. Linda Backman, his spouse, in making several national presentations on couples therapy, as well as having worked with couples in her former practice, so Dr. Linda Backman's former psychology practice. He is an author, a nationally known consultant, and is trained in both past life and between lives soul regression, as well as in the application of shamanic practices. In addition to managing business aspects of the Raven Heart Center, he also consults with clients in development and/or expansion of their healing practice. They both live in Boulder, and their website is www.ravenheartcenter.com, which I will copy and paste. And without further ado, please join me and Lynn in welcoming wonderful Dr. Earl and Linda Backman. I'm not sure who wants to take the reins first. Which of you would like to speak first?
Yeah,
So
Lynn is going to go for it first.
I'll dive in. And, a lot of you probably know us and were with us a couple weeks ago. But, with all that, sometimes I want to say, to Earl, let's make our bios 3 sentences long and, not have all the, going on and on and on. But I'm just going to very, very quickly, so that you guys listening have a sense of without all that detail. Here's the story in a very shortened version of Earl and Linda. So let me see. Yeah, can I make this short? Um, so Earl got his PhD when he was 25 years old, and Earl is not a psychologist. He has a doctoral degree in political science, and Earl spent 30 plus years as a professor and administrator. Through the passing of our second baby. So our second baby was born prematurely, born alive and breathing, and he lived a short time, a number of hours, and passed. And that's what taught us about what is grief, what is the passing of a child, how does that affect us, and that goes all the way back into the early 70s. So after 1972, when our second child, who we named Adam, was born and passed, I realized I was very, I hate to say fascinated. It's like, how do you become fascinated with the grief process? But Earl and I both ended up, what you all understand, we ended up experiencing the grieving, the loss of our second baby, and we came to understand what we all go through in that process. I went back to school, and that's what led me to become a psychologist. Earl continued on and was a university professor part of the time up in the northern part of Arizona in Flagstaff. And so from the 70s to the 90s, I was a psychologist in private practice, working with clients with all types of issues, including grief and loss. But I didn't understand what is so beautiful about HPH. In the 90s, my original colleague, a psychologist with whom I built a group practice up in Flagstaff, Arizona, he passed at the age of 32. And his parents were living, and they are shining light parents. But that's when I came to understand soul, what happens when we pass. And I went back into training, and I trained in regression work. I trained in understanding guiding a client into a past life, and then guiding the client beyond the ending of the past life. I mean, I've spent more than 30 years working with clients who are passing, if you will, in the past life. So sometimes people say to me, Linda, how do you know there's an afterlife? And I have to be careful, not to quietly and slightly chuckle, because I've worked with clients for over 30 years experiencing the step that occurs when a life comes to a close and when the soul energy that resides within that body, in this case, our children, what happens and what occurs in the afterlife. Then, just to finish all this up, when that happened for me in the 90s, Earl and I began to talk about this, and then Earl remembered that Earl in his middle 40s in the early 90s began to recall that when he was a boy about age 10, he spontaneously remembered his past lives. And where that took us, of course, over the course of now many years since 1993, is into understanding who are we as a soul, what happens at the soul level, what happens in the afterlife, and that's been one of our major aspects of Earl's and my focus for whatever it is, 30 some odd years. So, Earl, before we dive into answering questions, do you want to add anything to all of that?
Well, I think our awareness has been, as Linda says, an evolutionary process. I work with a lot of clients um, who have had a loved one, including children, cross over. And what I've come to learn is that there are ways in which you can learn to connect energetically, feeling wise, emotionally, and sometimes in actual hearing voices. And so it just reinforces the fact that we really find it important for ourselves to work with clients who want to understand more about their child who has crossed over. Where are they? What are they doing? How are they doing? How can I connect? And so that's kind of why we're back here 2 weeks later um, to go deeper, but really to answer the questions that you all have rather than us trying to guess what it is you want to hear. And so we are very pleased, as Elizabeth knows, to have this opportunity to return, to share, to connect, and to assist you. And in the process of answering your questions, it assists us. It assists us to know the questions that are important for us to address in various ways. So thank you.
That's beautifully said. And my goodness, we have people coming in from all over. And I don't know if you wanted to just start with the questions that you already have that were sent in last time, or right now everyone's just kind of telling where they're from and who they are, and especially who their children are. Linda, did you have a question that you really that caught your eye from last time?
Sure.
I do. And what happened, Elizabeth, I'm sitting here with here's this piece of paper I have. I started copying questions, Elizabeth, from the chat last time, and I had to stop because there were so many. So I'm going to dive in and just pick two or three, and Earl and I will answer two or three. I have more than two or three printed out, and then we'll see where things go. But I'll just say to everyone, no question is off limits. No question, no question is bizarre. Dive in and ask whatever is on your mind and your heart, and Earl or I or both of us will do our best to answer. So, okay. Yeah, let me start with this one. So last time we were talking about the soul realm. So and I'll just say this quickly. A lot of you probably heard me say this. What I know that happens at the ending, I've learned this from past lives. Um, and of course, because I've done this kind of work for so many years, I've also had conversations with souls that are part of my life on the other side. So when a human life, when cardiopulmonary functions cease, then what happens basically is that the portion of our soul that causes us to be alive in body, and as you all, those of you maybe heard me say this last time, we never bring 100% of our soul energy into our physical human body because I've been told many times it would blow the circuits of the human body. So we bring a holographic percentage, if you will, of our soul energy. And when a baby is born and the umbilical cord is cut, that's what allows us, that's what allows our children to be viable outside of the womb. And that slice of the soul has an automatic process where that slice of soul returns back to the higher realm, back to the spiritual realm, and steps back into the higher self of our children. So that I said all that so you understand. So here's the question. Um, Here's how it was written. Do all souls work there or they do nothing? The question is, do all souls work in the higher realm or do some of them do nothing? My best answer to that is none of the souls of our children do nothing. Um, does that mean they're constantly working and constantly demanded? Not necessarily. But I would say, based on my many years of guiding regression, all of our children's souls take on responsibility. It's funny, I start to answer a question and I can hear my guides telling me to add something else in, which I will in a minute. Um, the souls of our children help coordinate the higher realm because the higher realm guides us as humans in body. And what my guides jumped in and told me to say just now is there's a resting period. So that doesn't mean that instantaneously our children are, that they jump right into responsibility. For many of our children, there's a resting period, there's an adapting period. And then the answer, my best answer to this question is all of our children do what they can to help us as their parents and as their loved ones, but they also take on coordinating responsibility in the spiritual realm. So Earl, do you want to add?
I don't think I need to add anything to that, but I will address a question that's in the chat.
Okay,
So we'll go kind of back and forth.
that's
The
great.
question from one of the listeners, participants, has to do with her sister that passed recently.
Mm,
And she wanted to know, she went to a medium, the proof of evidence and message was spot on. Yes, to answer your question, your sister can come back very quickly to communicate with you, particularly if you're open to it. And depending on the process of crossing over, she may still have a very strong connection to those loved ones on this side. And so clearly, she was using this, your sister was using this opportunity because you were putting the energy out there through a medium to connect with the soul of your sister, that
mm.
that was a way of your sisters communicating, talking with you. So the answer is definitely yes. It's not time sensitive. It's all about when they are ready and when you are ready. And when those are in sync, that communication takes place, that expression of love, that connection takes place. So back to you.
Yeah, I'll just jump in. I mean, this is great. This is sort of like the Earl and Linda Dog and Pony show going back and forth. Um, One thing I know, and this is often leads to people's questions, is when someone passes, in this case, when our child passes, um, there's a gradual process of the soul energy of our child elevating and returning. So elevating from third dimension, from Earth, elevating through what we call the astral plane or the energetic space between Earth and the higher realm. There's a usually a gradual process as the soul of our child, that soul energy that resided within their body, that soul energy doesn't necessarily instantaneously return back to what we call fifth dimension, where the higher self of our children resides. It's gradual. So, that said, what happens most of the time is that the soul of our child, that slice of soul that was within their body, it hovers. Their soul is supporting, observing, supporting you as loved ones, knowing that all kinds of complicated decisions have to be made, from getting a hold of family and friends and arrangements and all of that. So the soul of our child doesn't instantaneously return back to fifth dimension. Eventually, yes, whether it's days or a few weeks, the soul of our child does, I like to say, if you see my hands here, it sort of integrates back into the higher self. But then the question always comes up, well, so, okay, is it harder to connect with my child if the integration has happened? And the answer is no, it's not necessarily harder um, at all. It's simply the gradual process of the soul of our child adapting, you might say, to not being in body. But it doesn't matter in terms of being able to connect with and communicate with your child, whether it's a few days after they've passed or it's years after they passed. And I'll just share one quick thing. This goes back many, many years for me. Back in the later 70s, as I began to understand soul and all of that, I remember I started doing counseling with parents and family members who'd had a child pass. And I always remember this woman. It's funny that this comes to me this many years later, but I always remember this lovely woman who came for some counseling. And her son had passed, I believe, 20 years prior to this day. I was going to do some support counseling with her. And so she came for this session. She began to explain to me what had happened. And her adult son in his 20s had sadly passed in a house fire. And she she basically had not focused on her feelings. She had sort of pushed that aside. And so when we did this counseling session, this avalanche of emotion came forward for her, which, in my opinion, needed to come forward. And as I remember, because I worked with her a few times, a few sessions in a row, the the relief, the calming, the letting go of I can't go there, I can't talk about that, just began to just lessen and lessen. So, our normal human grieving can take weeks, months, and years. Yeah.
So we have another question that focuses on a question about whether using a pendulum to
Mm.
ask about her daughter's energy, yes or no questions, is it legit? Well, this is a very interesting question because if you put out the intention through the use of a pendulum that your goal is to connect, we'll say in this particular case, to this individual, that you want to connect. You want to connect with your daughter's energy. Your daughter's the one that has, because she's now all spirit, all soul. She's all powerful. She doesn't have soul and body. She's now in a place where she can direct her intention to what you want. So when you put out the intention, you ask a yes or no question, then you pay attention to the answer. It will resonate, even if it's just a yes or no, and you're not establishing a pattern of communication via the pendulum, but you're getting some understanding about how she's doing. You can ask those yes or no questions. It is legit because your energy, and in this case, your daughter's energy, are connecting. And that's the vehicle that you connect. And it's likely that if you pursue this using of the pendulum, you will find a place where you're communicating with your daughter without the pendulum, because you've set the pattern and she's going to follow where you are because she can reach where you are. So, great question. And it's all about belief, it's all about knowing this is possible and moving forward with it. So, good question.
That's a beautiful answer. I just want to say there are so many great questions. Some of them are repeats from the last time 2 weeks ago, but you guys are definitely going to have to come back sometime after this too. So go ahead, Linda. Okay.
Yeah, well, I see one. Thank you, Elizabeth. I see one that well, I love all these questions, but this is Maria's question. I'll read it. You guys can all but read it, but it's a wonderful question, and probably all questions are great questions. So Maria, you're saying question regarding collaboration with our children who have passed and their soul and our physical lives connected and collaborating together to create and complete goals. Now, it's kind of funny. There's a part of me that just wants to say, yes, that's true, because I have no doubt that, yes, that's true. Um, but to say more about it, it think about if all of us think about our children, and this is not meant to say it is the least bit easy to cope with the passing of our child or children. But on the other hand, there's this golden opportunity um, with our children across the veil that accomplishments, writing something, teaching something, cleaning up even a relationship that has been going on Earth, and your child across the veil is assisting you to clean that up. The bottom line is, I think it's fair to say that there's always, to one degree or another, working across the veil collaboration, um, because in a crazy way, for your child, they're not, as humans, it's easy for us to get bogged down in, oh, should I say that to this person? Should I not say that to this person? Um, the wisdom of our children and their vantage point from the higher realm is a different vantage point than when we're in body. So, yes, I hope everybody will be, listening right now and thinking about, what kind of collaboration has already been going on between those of you in body, parents, shining light parents, yes, collaborating across the veil.
So, lots of questions, as you're right, Elizabeth. Jillian, no, loved ones do not age in the spiritual realm, because aging, the process, is an earthly concept. It's what your body does. Once you leave your body, the soul energy connects with the rest of your energy in the spiritual realm. And that soul energy is a composite of, frankly, many past lives. So it evolves. That's the important thing. The soul evolves and grows, but the aging process, no. To you, your baby girl may seem the age she is when she crossed over, but what you're connecting with is often a very advanced soul. This is just one of her transitions. It's the one that you're engaged in. And so she's going to work with you and give you the signs and symbols that she's been giving you, because she's a very advanced soul in that way.
That's beautiful. And I also just want to say that from what I understand, they can they can come to us at whatever age they actually want to. So even if our grandparents come through, they can come through to us at the age that they maybe looked the most beautiful. I know that for my Chelsea, who transitioned at 2 days old, many mediums have seen her at the age that she would be right now. And she's gorgeous and very happy. And it's not that she is aging in the physical way, as Earl is saying. She is aging to be able to allow us to identify these loved ones who are coming through. So, anyway, that's a beautiful answer, though, Earl. And I just want to give a shout out to Jessica Machetta. And I don't know if you could possibly turn on your video, but I feel very grateful because Linda and Earl were worried about the fact that Barb has moved to Pennsylvania. Barb is our affiliate leader for for Erie Boulder, and they are kindly sending lots of parents to that group. So they were very reassured to know that we do have a group that actually flawlessly transitioned. So I just wanted to see, are you on here? Do you, it's
Yeah,
weird because I saw you earlier and now
I see Jessica, her video is on.
her video is on. Okay, are you
Yeah.
waving, Jessica? Let's see. Oh, there you are. Do you want to just say hi really quickly? I'm just going to ask you very, very quickly because they have so much to do. But so for other people who are looking for someone in that area, can you unmute? It's not letting you? That's weird. Does it
Oh,
now? There you go.
yes. Okay. At first it said that I didn't have permission. Hi, my name's Jessica. This is a scary honor. I'm hopeful that I can help people or facilitate that help as much as it helped me. I found helping parents heal just a few months after Macy leveled up, and it has been a life-saving experience for me. So excited to join the leadership team.
I want to say too that it's kind of funny when people were talking about the pendulum earlier. That was one of the activities that you did as a group. I saw lots of pictures of that. So anyway, thank you, thank you. And I'm going to go ahead and mute you again so that so that Earl and Linda can get through the rest of the questions. Thank you.
Yeah. And Jessica, I'll just jump in. Earl and I live in Erie. And so if we can assist you guys with the local group, please just reach out. Yeah, we'd be happy to do that. Yeah. Okay, lots of questions. So, and we'll just jump around and Earl, you can pick and choose. I see a question. I'm going to read Ingrid's question. So, as time moves on and our kids spend more time on the other side, do they get farther away from us? I seem to feel her and hear from her so much in the first 2 years and less in this third year. So, my answer to that, Ingrid, is our children on the other side. One piece of the answer to that question is that our children pay attention to us as their parents and how are we doing. So sometimes in the first 2 years, for a lot of people, the first 2 years is the most challenging because it's such a gigantic human adjustment to have our child on the other side. And so think about it for yourself, Ingrid. If after, once 2 years went by, and, please don't hear me putting a timetable on how you should feel and how long it should take. That's not what I'm saying, because unfortunately, lots of the everyday world tries to put a timetable on the adjustment and what happens after a child passes. But think about it, Ingrid, and I wonder, and you can put this in the chat box if you want. I wonder if after 2 years you were adapting to a degree, and that had something to do with less communication. That doesn't mean you you don't have a way of communicating with her. It just may be what's going on in terms of how you're doing. Yeah. And so I hope that, I hope that kind of helps understand that piece. Yeah.
So this is a question I'll address, but I know Linda will want to follow up with it because she works with clients in this way. The question has to do with if your child passes by suicide, they must reincarnate and quickly. Is that true? There are no fast rules about this. Suicide is a death, and there are all kinds of deaths and crossing over. So it's the musts and shoulds. Those are earthly concepts that don't don't exist. It may be that your child chooses to incarnate again quickly, that there's a need for that. On the other hand, there may be a need for some rest, some processing of what this life they went through, what led them to suicide. They're just, what we have to be careful of is putting fast and absolute, seeing that things are absolute and always the same. That's just not the case. Linda works with a lot of individuals who have loved ones cross over, including suicide, and I think she can add a little bit more depth to that.
Yeah, I mean, Earl, I think you did a great job with that. Sadly, it's so easy for our perspective to be tainted if our child has ended their life through suicide. And as best we can, and I think all of you know this, try your best to kind of throw those biases out the window. Because sadly, humans put biases on how things happened and what happened and that sort of thing. And I'll just support what Earl has said. Yes, sometimes if someone has ended their life in that manner, they come back quickly. But on the other hand, sometimes it's no, it's like they don't need to come back quickly, and it can be longer. So there are no rules. I want to jump into a question that I see. Yen, you've asked, can I choose not to be reborn on Earth?
Yeah.
And what I'm not sure, so you can add it, Yen, because I'm not totally sure what you're asking. Um, the bottom line, just to give a kind of a blanket answer to that, and then Yen, put more in the chat box if you want to clarify. Um, Whether we reincarnate again quickly or it takes a long time, that's a decision of the soul of our child and our children and all of us that are in body as well. We always have spiritual guides. We have spiritual guides. We have, call them guardian angels, call them what you want. How quickly or not quickly a soul reincarnates is a decision that's made by the soul and the spiritual guides. Okay. And if, Yen, you're asking, and I'm not going to walk very far down this road, but you can always reach out to me or to Earl about this. There are times when we do have lives, incarnations, not on Earth. And that's a part of the work that I do in regression. That may or may not be what you're asking, but does our child have to reincarnate again? The answer is no, they don't have to reincarnate. again, that's basically the choice of our child at the soul level. Yeah.
Another question, this one from Julie. Really, really a good question. I deal with that because I'm a channel. I deal much with what you're saying. It's a question about their child and spirit through a channeling. You ask, why was our life together so hard for us? His response was, I don't remember it that way. I only remember the good. Do they think that is true? Do they forget all that? The answer is everything that took place in this life is stamped on your child's sort of soul DNA. So they don't forget. They do know. However, where your son is now, it's about relating to you, not from being in that lifetime, but from that higher perspective as a soul, wanting to convey to you that he didn't see that life as being difficult. It may have been challenging. And some of the times when there's a difficult relationship, and as a parent, you feel guilty. I should have done this. I could have done this, whatever. Remember, there are times when our children choose us as parents. They come into the body to be our child, to be a teacher. Okay? They consciously made that decision at the soul level, not something you're cognizant of at all. But the challenges you felt, in this case, Julie, from your son, may have been he came into being to teach you something. That these challenges you feel, he didn't feel they were challenges. He truly didn't look at it that way because at the soul level, he knew he was being a teacher for you.
Mm.
So it's, again, we really have to be careful to generalize about what is true, what's not true. You could go deeper, Julie, into working with whoever you worked with as a channel to connect with your son and ask questions. My sense is you might get more clarity if you chose to do that.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome. Cynthia, I want to dive in and respond to your comment. So you said, my son passed in 2021. I've had no contact I've had no contact from him. I've always been open-minded about life after death, but I've not had any dreams with him in it. I'm brokenhearted. So, this would be so much easier if we could take 5 or 10 minutes and dialogue back and forth with those of you that are asking questions. Sometimes dreams aren't the way our children connect with us. Oftentimes, dreams are not the avenue that either works for our child or works for us. And so, what I would say, Cynthia, is think about any other signs. Um, Something uncanny happened. Something you didn't expect to happen, but was a very useful shift in your life, just happened out of the blue. Our children on the other side, especially working along with spiritual guides, sometimes a change in your life. You've been trying to sell your house, but it didn't sell, and suddenly it sells. You've been looking for another position at your company, and all of a sudden it works out. Um, what 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 I want to say is look for those surprising, uncanny circumstances that you didn't think were going to happen. And you all know about, I mean, the whole area that's called after death communication, all those signs that many of us as Shining Light parents have seen from the same type of bird feathers showing up as you're walking down the street 3 times in a week. Uh, uh, a penny showing up in an unusual place, and it happens repetitively. When Earl's mother passed, there were such unique circumstances tied to butterflies. Um, so don't just focus on dreams, focus on just about anything that feels uncanny and and don't try not to worry about those people outside of you that don't believe in this kind of thing and they say, oh, you just want to believe that, or look for those uncanny circumstances and be sure when you're looking for support and validation, reach out to another shining light parent or the leader of your local group or whatever, because you guys all know, I guess I would hazard to say we as shining light parents with the soul and perspective of the other side, we're not the norm on the planet. Um, and of course, that's what I absolutely love about HPH. When my dear friend Sue Frederick, who many of you know, um, helped me learn about HPH.
Thank you, Linda. I just want to say one thing very quickly because we're talking about reincarnation and maybe our kids coming back. And what if they come back in this lifetime? Will we miss them and not be able to be over on the other side together with them? Obviously, we've talked about this last time that it's only a very small part of our soul that actually reincarnates. We are over there already. Even us as a soul are over there with our kids. But the more important thing that I wanted to say just now is that he's doing a study on parents who have had children who have passed, and he's asking them to fill out a questionnaire if they feel that their child has reincarnated in this lifetime and that they are able to tell different things about the reasons that they know this. It's a fascinating survey. I don't ever post anything in Helping Parents Heal because I don't want to bother people. We don't put surveys in Helping Parents Heal. But if any of you would like to reach out to Mark about this, Lynn will write his email in the chat box, and he is getting as many parents as possible together. The study that he's done so far, the article that he has done is fascinating. Sorry about that, just have to quickly say that.
No,
And
no,
thank you
no.
for letting me interrupt.
Oh, no, that's wonderful research. That's awesome. I'm going to jump in here with Gina's question. If my child is an advanced soul and I'm a less advanced soul, will we not be together on the other side? That one is easy for me to answer because I guide regression usually multiple times a week. There are not, what do I want to call it? Rooms on the other side, so to speak. I'm being a little silly here. There are not rooms on the other side where room A is for souls that are advanced at a high level, and room B is the next level down. Um, Souls interact on the other side, having basically nothing to do with level of advancement. And then, of course, I love Jessica, what you're saying. Gina, you are an advanced soul. And so, but please don't think there's some categorizing or, structured classrooms on the other side. Yeah.
I'll take one quick question from Tara. Does learning about our past lives benefit us and our soul now? Yes. What past life regression provides us is an opportunity to look in a single session at a life that your guides feel is important for you to know about currently in your life. In other words, to help you understand maybe some of the challenges could be relationship, could be issues, could be phobias, fears, things that your guide feels that a past life, understanding a certain past life would give clarity as to why you feel that way. Linda's had lots of clients who have had phobias about dying in plane crashes or drowning, or where they have no experience like that. But it was a bleed through, or in a case, understanding that these feelings are from a past life, which then allows you to delete them, to reduce them, say, oh, I'm not crazy. I'm being shown this past life so that I deal with what happened in that path life. And so, yes, it can be very important. It can be eye awakening, and it can help you deal with everything from health, medical issues, phobias. Linda's had a plethora of clients where a past life regression has helped them to deal with a current issue in their life.
Yeah. I want to just respond because Yen, I see you've clarified your question, so thank you for doing that. And what you're saying is, I meant I don't want to come back here. Can I decide it? Good question. I get asked that question a lot. Primarily, we evolve as a soul by coming into body. Incarnation, reincarnation it's like going to school, and probably one of the hardest schools, if not the hardest school, is Earth incarnation. Um, but we are expected to grow and learn as a soul, and because we not necessarily always smoothly and easily, but coming into body on Earth is the way we grow and evolve. So the easiest answer is if we are at a certain level of soul evolution, we then usually have the option of whether we come back to Earth and embody on Earth. But we're encouraged to keep working on our learning. And I know lots of us, probably Earl and I included, would say sometimes Earth is, pretty challenging. And of course it is. But think about what we learn and how we grow. Um, I mean, even the most incredibly difficult circumstance, which is the physical human passing of our child.
Just a quick response to Jessica's question about why a soul only needs to be here for 1 to 3 years. It doesn't seem like this is for them. Linda and I had to learn this with our son Adam, who lived such a short period of time. Why would he come in and leave so quickly? And it was clear that it wasn't. And that's the case for often children who leave so early. It isn't for them. They have made an agreement at the soul level with us as parents. We don't know that as parents, to come in, and often it's to be a teacher. It's to show us something. It may be as the case was for us, it changed Linda's total trajectory of what she was going to do professionally. I mean, it was a 90-degree turn. And it took us a while to figure that out, that he came to teach us about grief. Linda's clearly been focusing on grief, death, and dying for more than 40 years, but it was that reason for us. So I think it's important not to think that children who come and stay such a short period of time, that it's about them. It's about a commitment at the soul level they made to help a family, to help the parents. And it takes a while to come to grips with that as a parent and understand, oh, yeah, that was for us. And the sacrifice their child makes to help us lead us in the direction that we need to go in our current life.
Okay, Elizabeth, do you want us to keep going? I'm paying attention to the time.
Thank you for paying attention. Oh my goodness, I think this is so wonderful. And I do think that we have time for another question, if that's okay. I always am very mindful not to go too far along because then people look at the length of the recording, and if it's over an hour, they don't necessarily watch it. So anyway, I would love for you to respond to another one. Is there anything that you feel is most important, and we can certainly have you back again to try to answer the other questions.
Yeah, and we would be most happy to do that. Um, so I'll respond. There's Heidi has asked a question. Heidi says, my son passed unexpectedly 3 years ago at 25. He and my daughter were very close growing up. My daughter has had two children since her brother passed, a toddler boy and an infant girl. Both pregnancies were entirely after my son passed. Is it possible that he is reincarnated to be one of these babies? Well, first, the answer is it's absolutely possible. And what I would just say is, and this is where I think we have to, how can I say this? Really not stretch our beliefs, but be extremely open. Um, Heidi, look for signs. With obviously, we're talking about a toddler and a very young baby. But look for signs and indications. I keep using the word uncanny. And again, out there in the real world, people will say, "Oh, Linda, you just want to believe that," or, "Heidi, you just want to believe that." Try your darndest to kind of set those skeptical comments aside, um, and look for any uncanny circumstances about these two young children that, yes, it's possible, but certainly not a sure thing that either child could be the same soul. Yeah.
That's a
I have,
beautiful answer. And I just think that it's very important for everyone to keep their minds open and remember that you always, during this healing journey that we're all going on together, anything that resonates with you, just keep it in your toolbox and just leave the rest behind. We don't have to all think the same way to be able to also move forward and heal. And our kids are all different, and our journeys, our healing journeys, are also all very different. And that's completely fine, but they are all working together to help us to move forward and heal. And I love being able to have Dr. Earl and Linda Bachman talk about these different things with you because they've had so much experience. And they're also part of our club, which is very, very endearing to all of us. And again, if they're willing to come back, I think that we're going to need to have them come back and answer the other questions that are in the chat box. Um, I do want to say that I feel very grateful that they were able to come today, that they will be at the conference as well. So you'll be able to see them in person and talk to them at length or hear them present at length as well at the conference. And I also just want to remind everyone that that we have a bunch of speakers coming up in the next 2 weeks or so. It's amazing how wonderful this has been, in spite of the fact that we don't have Irene with us right now. I miss her like crazy, but she'll be back as soon as she can. Thank you, Lynn, for helping us this evening. And thank you, Earl and Linda. I know that you had other plans and that you moved them around to be able to be with us, but we'll try to find another day, not in the not too distant future, to have you on again. Any last thoughts that you'd like to tell us before we sign off?
I mean, I would just say keep listening and look for, I keep using this word, but I love it because I think it is often how our children show up to us. Look for uncanny signs, and then you become a teacher to other people about what are the unique signs that our child is available. So it's been, I'll just speak for Earl, it's been our great pleasure and thrill and honor to be with all of you. And we love the fact that we can also say that we too are shining light parents.
Well, and you are right when you say that we're not the majority right now, probably. Although I think that everybody does believe that their kids are communicating with them from the other side. They might not be talking about it as we like to hear them talk about it. And one of the most exciting things for us is to be able to talk about our kids, because unfortunately, in normal everyday life, it's kind of hard to just start a conversation with someone and tell them about the signs that we're receiving from our kids in spirit. So this is definitely a safe place to do so. And everyone is saying in the chat box, thank you so much. Appreciate your time and expertise. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh my goodness, so many thank yous in here. So thank you for doing this again, and we'll have you back again, hopefully before the conference, but we also hope to see everyone there, which will be from the 27th to the 30th of August here in Phoenix again, right below Phoenix near the Sky Harbor Airport. So it's very easy to get here in a beautiful Native American reservation that has just so much wonderful energy. Linda, do you want to say anything before we sign off?
No, just the website says August 26th through the 30th, so I don't know what the correct
Well,
date.
it's both actually. The speakers start really on the 27th, which is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but a lot of people like get here on Wednesday so that they can benefit from everything that, so the rate at the hotel will be the reduced rate actually a few days before the conference. It's not even just the 26th, but thank you for saying that. Anything else?
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Earl.
Thank
Elizabeth.
you.
Our pleasure.
You.
Our pleasure.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much, both of you and Lynn as well, and all of you who are here. Thank you for coming. Thank you to your kids for telling you to come.
Thank you.
And if you'd like to, please go ahead and unmute and say thank you to Doctors Earl and Linda Bachman.
Thank
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank
you so much.
Blessings
Thank you
so
both
much.
very, very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you tomorrow and then Thursday as well. And we're looking forward to seeing you. Take care. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.